Good afternoon, everybody. I should say, good evening, everybody. All right. Welcome, everybody, to the Geary Auditorium at the University of Charleston. I'm Marty Roth, president here. It's my pleasure to welcome you to an evening with Esmeralda Santiago. Let me give you a little bit of background as to why Miss Santiago is here with us this evening. Here at the University of Charleston, we're very focused, very passionate about our mission, which is to educate each and every student for life of productive work, enlightened living, community involvement. And every day we're working with our students, helping them prepare for their careers. And that happens through their great coursework with our outstanding faculty, students doing internships, clinical rotations, lots of different hands-on, applied, experiential activities which prepares them for the life, the world of work. We also are very dedicated to ensuring students develop an appreciation for the communities in which they live, in which they work, and while they're here with us, becoming involved in the community here in Charleston. So as part of our initiative to be Charleston's university, we have our students involved in a lot of different community service activities throughout the year. And one of the things we did this academic year was our first ever Labor of Love Day, where we canceled all of our classes on Labor Day, and we had our entire community of students, faculty, and staff working in the city of Charleston and the surrounding area on a number of different community service initiatives. Well, today, we decided to use Martin Luther King Jr. Day to focus on that third pillar of our mission, enlightened living. For us, enlightened living means that we want to raise the level of awareness and understanding of important contemporary social and environmental issues, so that we all gain a little bit more confidence in helping to tackle those issues, again, in the communities where we ultimately are going to live, study, and work. So today, we began at 8 o'clock this morning at our basketball arena, watching a movie called The Hate You Give. It was a great opportunity for us to begin to raise our awareness of a variety of different social issues around identity, around how people perceive each other, how we can create better communications and better dialogue, to again, better appreciate all the great diversity that we have here at the University of Charleston. We have students who were enrolled this year from 45 states, 47 countries. We have such great diversity here. We have to make sure that we're upping our game and being able to appreciate, understand, and take advantage of that great diversity to make each and every one of us a better person and a better contributor to the university, to the city of Charleston, and to all the places where all ultimately work and live. So today, we began at 8 o'clock in the morning. We had activities throughout the day. We really wanted to end with a bang. We wanted to have a keynote speaker and really bring today's activities to a really positive and successful close. So we were able to work with a lot of our great partners here in the Charleston area, ARP of West Virginia, Jackson Kelly, American Water, Kim Lawrence, are sponsors for this evening's event, and we're able to bring to campus Esmeralda Santiago. And to give you an introduction to Miss Santiago, I would first like to introduce Jane Marks from the ARP West Virginia. Jane has recently become the state volunteer president. She's been involved with ARP of West Virginia for 5 years, but has spent her entire professional career working in the nonprofit space and being a very active volunteer in the community here in Charleston and other places in which she has lived and worked. So we're really delighted to have all of our sponsors here this evening, and I'd like to introduce to all of you Jane Marks from West Virginia ARP. Jane?
Workshop on the one characteristic that we all share, no matter our racial or ethnic background, no matter our religion, our sexual orientation, we are all aging. For some of you who may not know, the actual mission of AARP is to allow folks to live where they choose, how they choose. And I'd like to read to you just a bit about the AARP philosophy in terms of inclusion and diversity. AARP is committed to creating and maintaining a workplace culture that respects and values individual differences. Our employees and volunteers come from vastly different racial, ethnic, general, multi-generational, sexual orientation, gender identity, society, and cultural backgrounds. And those varied lives and work experiences directly contribute to supporting AARP's strategic vision and mission. Our organization strives to be a catalyst for changing long-held perceptions, fostering collaboration and innovation, and sharing new outlooks on the issues and challenges facing people 50 plus and their families. And now you're in for a treat. It is my special pleasure to introduce to you our keynote speaker. Born in Puerto Rico, the eldest of 11 children, Esmeralda Santiago came to the United States when she was 13 years old. In 2 years, she had learned enough English in order to graduate from the prestigious Performing Arts High School. She did gain acceptance into Harvard University with a full scholarship. Among all the other things that she has done that she will tell you about this evening, she has authored 3 memoirs, 2 novels. She's actually working on a novel right now as we speak, a children's book, and has co-edited 2 anthologies of Latino literature. The transcultural experiences growing up in a rural barrio, poor and disenfranchised, inspire much of her work. Her books have been translated into 15 languages. Her essays and opinion pieces have appeared in publications like the Boston Globe and the New York Times. You're going to get to see a little bit of her story on film, and then I know that you will give a rounding welcome, a West Virginia welcome to Esmeralda Santiago.
Puerto Rico of my childhood doesn't exist, but there is documentary photography of the period. When I look at these pictures, it all comes back. The house that I grew up in was little more than a shack. The roof and the walls were flattened lard cans. The floor was dirt. The kitchen was a separate space, just a lean-to. We cooked in a fogon, which was 3 stones, in which we lit a fire using sticks and branches. We ate very simply, mostly tubers. Ñames, yautías, malangas, plátanos. For dishes, we used gourds, and to drink our coffee, we had coconut shells. For water, we cleaned and washed lard cans that we filled at the public fountain and then carried home. One of my fondest memories of school in Puerto Rico was that we had to memorize a poem and then recite it in front of the whole class. This is called declamación. There's only one picture of me as a child. I stand beside my crouching father and behind my younger sister, Delsa. Papi faces the camera as if begging forgiveness. I stare straight ahead, wondering what's going to happen next. I fell in love. We were married. we had children. And I wanted my children to know what my life had been like. And so I began to write.
Thank you for being here. Thank you to the university for inviting me here today. President Roth, Hallie Chilek, who has worked very hard to make sure that we got here and that the good experience which I have had so far. And thank you to the tech team. I mean, doesn't it look beautiful here? This is so lovely. The observance of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s special day. And I'm old enough that I remember him speaking usually on television. I never met him in person. And he was a big part of my life. In our apartments, we had very little decoration, but there was always three portraits on our wall. One was Sagrado Corazón de Jesús, even though my mother was not particularly religious. There was always Jesus was on the wall because she prayed a lot. John F. Kennedy on one side and Martin Luther King on the other. And so these two people are part of my remembrance as a young woman. And I didn't really understand why JFK was there, but I certainly knew why Dr. King was there. And because he lived, and because he's alive, and because he spoke so eloquently, my life changed. How? For somebody that I've never met. Well, he was all about justice and freedom, and about compassion and empathy. And it's about not forgetting your history. And it's about speaking out. And all those messages were messages that I needed when I was growing up in the United States. And they have had a huge impact on my life. My father is black, my mother is white. And so I was aware that already in my family there's this dichotomy that is much more pronounced in the United States than it was in Puerto Rico. So that was something that I was conscious of, but that's just the way our lives was. My sisters and brothers were all different shades. One of my sisters is redheaded, the other one has amber eyes. This is my coloring. Another one looks so Asian that people often thought she was Vietnamese. So there's this great diversity just within my family that I took for granted. But then here in the United States it becomes a little bit more challenging because there's much more discussion about race here than we did in Puerto Rico. And so I was old enough to notice that. I wanted to read to you something that I wrote about why I write, because my trajectory, if you look at it, it doesn't look like, oh, this girl growing up in that place, doing those kinds of things, is going to become a writer. I did not know that would happen to me until I actually did it. I was not the child who said, oh, I was going to be a writer. I wrote because I needed to do it, and I needed to do that. But it wasn't until I actually had my first book in my hand that I could call myself a writer. It was really a strange moment for me, and it changed the entire trajectory of my life. But I think, of course, I need to tell you about how it started, and why. And it is inspired by the words of Dr. King, because he gave me courage. I was a fearful, skinny little Puerto Rican girl with a very heavy accent, who didn't have a sense of what her life would be like. But he gave me courage, and for that I will be eternally grateful. Why do I write? The young woman waited, letting those who wanted their books signed to move ahead until she was the last to approach the table. When she gave me her hand, I could feel her trembling. I am Korean, she whispered. I came to the United States like you. Her lips quivered as she pressed my 3 memoirs to her chest. Her family, like mine, settled in Brooklyn, she said, but her parents forbid her from mixing with non-Asians. When I read your books, she said, I see the Puerto Rican girl sitting beside me in school. By now, she was talking. We could have been friends. I came around the table, my own emotions and turmoil. You see, within days of my arrival in New York from Puerto Rico, I learned that I was invisible. 13 years old, female, a native Spanish speaker with no English. My humble demeanor betrayed a childhood spent in a remote rural barrio in a forgotten island. I did not exist. Our family was headed by a single mother. Mommy worked long hours in garment factories that laid her off when they moved to places free of unions for minimum wage. With no income to support her children, she had to rely on welfare. I was a stereotype. We settled in neighborhoods no one visited unless they lived there, ignored by U.S. American society. When we were noticed, it was because our housing was substandard, or because we dropped out at an alarming rate, or because one of us had committed a crime. A 28-year-old Puerto Rican man, newspaper reports began. And I didn't have to read further to know he had done nothing to be proud of. I brimmed with negative expectations. To judge from the television programs that filled every hour, Ricky Ricardo was the only Spanish speaker in the United States. But he never spoke the tender Spanish words that expressed love or happiness. We didn't hear felicidad. We never hear amor. The rolling R's and open vowels of my everyday life was only heard when Ricky was angry because Susie had done something stupid. His mad gesticulation, his spacing, the muttered words that U.S. Americans didn't need to understand, made him appear stupid, while her antics seemed charming in light of his overreaction. I have to admit, I did not love Lucy. At the movies, Maria dangled from a fire escape while Tony crooned in an abandoned lot. A man like that, sang, kill your brother. Virginal Maria gave up her family, her culture, her life even, because U.S. American guy in tight pants lusted after. It was in the dynamic between good girl Maria and bad girl Anita that I was able to find myself. The feeling that people like me didn't exist was confirmed as I learned English and sought in books what I couldn't find in popular culture. No one in the books neatly shelved at the public library had been born in rural Puerto Rico. No one in the thousands of pages I read had 10 sisters and brothers, a mother who worked in a garment factory, an alcoholic grandmother, a father who refused to join his family in a foreign country whose politics he didn't support. No one spoke Spanish at home and English in school. No one had to navigate the expectations of Puerto Rican and U.S. American culture at the same time. No one, not one person, wondered if being U.S. American and Puerto Rican were mutually exclusive. Every morning, I rose early, dressed in front of the mirror, confirmed that Esmeralda Santiago, she exists. Before I stepped into the heart streets of New York, there I was labeled Hispanic or Latina, so that my Puerto Rican identity was erased for statistical purposes and other reasons. One foot solidly before the other, aware that any stumble or fall would prove the stereotypes. I negotiated life in an adopted language, in a cold climate, in a labyrinthine urban environment, and in a racially charged hostile city. I learned English through immersion because there was no bilingual education when I came. I graduated from high school. I took community college courses and eventually received a scholarship to Harvard. I was proud of these accomplishments. I had worked hard for them. I had taken advantage of every opportunity, but I never talked about it to anyone. At night, however, under the dim light of a second lamp, I wrote in wide-ruled composition notebooks what I didn't see anywhere but within the embrace of my huge extended family. In big letters, every I, every dotted, every T, every crossed. I wrote about the smell of my grandmother's hands, garlic, onions, beer, crushed oregano, the faint scent of cigarettes. In Spanish, I described the day Mommy buried the man over whom she defied her mother, the man with whom she had a child, our infant brother. Her intelligent brown eyes filled with tears at the mention of his name. So I wrote what we could never say. Francisco. In English, I wrote about my sister Delsa, who wanted to be a doctor. She wanted to save for college and medical school, so she found a job washing and dressing corpses at a local funeral. She was 14 years old. One year, my mother could afford to rent a house in the backyard, and we roasted a pig to celebrate. Neighbors peered through the windows as we prepared the traditional food we remembered from our days on the island. Arroz con gandules, yuca en escabeche. We danced salsa on the sidewalk on a humming, humid New York summer night. The stars were so impossibly far above that we could not see them. So those journals where I documented my life as a Puerto Rican in New York in the 1960s were discarded every time that we moved. We just couldn't take everything. But it was within those unassuming composition notebooks where I found the Puerto Rican people that I knew, not the stereotypes that everyone else talked about. It was there where people like me existed, struggled, and triumphed, in spite of the negative expectations. It was in those pages where I became a writer, and it was there where I found my audience. One reader, a little girl whose English improved daily, a teenager struggling to mold an identity out of two vastly different cultures, a young woman who refused to be invisible to herself. As I matured, if I talked about my life, cliches just spilled from people's lips. They marveled at my rags to riches story. They were impressed by my fairy tale life. They spoke in awe of the American dream fulfilled. I stopped talking about myself. Arguing that I never wore rags and was not yet rich, sounded offensive. Disputing my success seemed ungrateful. Stressing that mine wasn't an American dream but a Puerto Rican reality seemed picky. And it seemed futile to remind people America is not a country, it's a hemisphere. So I changed the subject. Then the editor, Lloyd Lawrence, saw one of my essays in the Radcliffe Quarterly. She called, we met. She offered me a contract to write a memoir. I was shocked, to say the least. I had published several autobiographical essays in newspapers and magazines, but the idea of building a book around my experiences had never, ever occurred to me. So, where to begin? I read a lot, and I read constantly, but I didn't really know what a memoir was. I read mostly fiction. So I stared at the familiar blue lines of the composition notebook, hoping for inspiration. Images fluttered before me. Color, warmth. A child's hand forming a mud pie. An avocado thudding to the ground. Bees buzzing. Rain splattering. A dusty yard. Smell of damp earth. Was this memoir? The recollection of disconnected sensory moments? My father's figure disappearing into the dust. Mammy's lips pressed together in my throat. My brother's toe caught on a bicycle chain. The man who exposed himself on the subway. Was this memoir? The painful moments, the transgressions by and against me, the hurt feelings stored over a lifetime, the fears that grew one upon the other, stacked against my failing courage. Or was it moments of joy? The slippery yellow sweetness of a ripe mango. The first cool wave around sandy feet. The red sun dropping behind mountains. The first kiss. I decided that memory was whatever I remember. Arranged chronologically so that I could keep track of things. And I just wanted to be honest, but not hurtful. I wanted to protect those that I loved, but I didn't want to pretend that they were perfect. I had no scores to settle, no secrets to reveal. I had only relentless memories, image upon image of a life that had its share of failure and success, of stupid mistakes, of laughter, anger, even passion. This was my life, or what I remembered, without apologies, without judgment. I didn't envision strangers reading it, evaluating it, comparing themselves to me or to my family. After the book was published, it came as a surprise when readers asked how Raymond's foot was and if met him or something. It took me aback when Spanish speakers addressed me in the familiar tú instead of the formal usted, because they felt as if they knew me. It moved me to tears when they told me that mine was the first book they read cover to cover. It unnerved me when they said, "You have lived my life." Really? I didn't know that. 30 years of wandering through U.S. American culture had proved that I was invisible. In all that time, I'd never found a book in English with a Puerto Rican protagonist who showed any resemblance to me or to the people I knew. Movies, television, and newspapers, if they featured Puerto Ricans at all, still depicted us as criminals, drug addicts, aware, welfare-dependent, sluggish, loudmouth women. The expectations for Puerto Ricans were so low that my accomplishments were considered a fluke or an accident, or as someone recently put it, because I was special. Dismissing the possibility that they could be duplicated because I was different, according to them, from other Puerto Ricans. So it came as a surprise when men as well as women of every race and ethnicity spoke up at readings or sent messages to let me know that they had identified with my story. Was this then what memoir was? A sharing of a life with strangers so that they could see themselves in you? Or was memoir what that young Korean woman had experienced? Insight into people superficially, unlike herself, but inwardly as vulnerable, as lonely, and scared as she had been and seemed to still be. I don't have the answers to those questions. Each life is specific to itself, but representative of many. Mine, which once seemed so uneventful, has become a mirror for others, a way for them to see themselves in relation to their fellow human beings. And maybe in a culture that now celebrates Puerto Ricans like Jennifer Lopez and Ricky Martin and Felix Trinidad and Isidro Toro, my memoirs bring another way of seeing Puerto Ricans who don't dance, who don't sing, who can't box, or who give Oscar-worthy performances. Before I sit down to write, I imagine a girl or boy sitting in a classroom, wondering whether to be afraid of the classmate on the last chair, unaware that she or he or they is wondering the same thing. That's why I write them. To make them visible to each other. And to bring them together in the same way that young Korean woman whose name was Young Hee and I became together in an embrace.
Now we're going to do question. Now, you were cards were distributed earlier, so questions up to us in a bit. We have some questions that were submitted.
It looks like the Actors Studio staff.
Yeah, you don't have to. You all don't have to. We're out the same thing. Okay, this one is an interesting. After the 2017 current, there was a media campaign all over the island, which seemed to exalt the choice of remaining there against all odds to struggle and help rebuild. Seems to me that this is a repeating theme to put down Puerto Ricans who move here as quitters, traitors, not Puerto Rican enough. Here in West Virginia, I hear the same complaints from friends and family who criticize those who have had to make the tough decision sometimes to leave West Virginia. Have you personally experienced those kinds of criticisms from other Puerto Ricans? And what advice would you have in West Virginia who are considering leaving?
This is something that I experienced. My generation of Puerto Ricans were actually encouraged to leave the island by the administration that was pushing something called Operation Bootstrap. And the whole concept behind it was that if a bunch of us left, there would be many more opportunities for the one to stay. And most of the people who left were actually families like mine, were the absolute poorest people that could go. There were even all kinds of people that actually gave us airfares to go, to leave the island. So we were encouraged to leave, to give an opportunity to the ones who stayed. And I always say, I didn't leave Puerto Rico. I was taken by my family, by my mom. So I really understand that sometimes those kinds of decisions, you think they come from you, but they're coming from a higher place where you don't even know who it is that made that decision. And in the case of my family, that was the case. They made it so attractive that my mom decided to go. But then when she comes, when she's in New York, things were really not. They were not paved with gold. And it was very, very difficult. So when I returned to Puerto Rico, I was accused of being a traitor because I left, didn't leave, I was taken to leave. But, and so I spent a lot of time thinking about what that meant, you know, and why are people accusing me of something that I had no fault, you know, it wasn't me, it was the government trying to push us out, and my mother needed to find another way to have her family taken care of, because she had relatives in New York and so on. And then I started looking around at the Puerto Ricans who were calling me. I wasn't Puerto Rican yet, because I had left, and because I spoke English, and because I dressed conservatively, much more conservatively than young women my age at the time. And I would look around Puerto Rico and I would say, okay, McDonald's, Burger King, they're over there, there's Starbucks, Walmart, and I'm going, wait a minute, you're accusing me of being Americanized. I wasn't here when all this stuff happened. You made that happen. I had nothing to do with it, so you can't be accusing me of doing anything against our culture. So that was the way that I was able to help myself to feel that I did nothing wrong in all the things that I did. I did all the right things for me and from my expectations. The people who are leaving Puerto Rico after the hurricane are in a very similar situation. You know, they have to leave because the infrastructure is so damaged that there is no place for people to live. And forget about comfort, being safe, right? And so those people who are leaving, they're doing the best for their families. And I don't think they're being traitors. I think that they are doing what they need to do for themselves and their families. You don't create a culture or a society by just hanging on to something that is not working. You try to make it work. And I think that I really appreciate that the people who have had to leave, and many of whom plan to return, and they probably will. And in fact, our generation, a lot of us came back to Puerto Rico. In fact, one of the things when during the hurricane, the only or the main reason you all who don't speak Spanish saw so much about what was happening during the hurricane and the aftermath is because all those Puerto Ricans who had left and spoke English and could talk to the media. Because CBS, NBC, ABC, they were not talking to the Spanish speakers. They were speaking to the people who could actually speak in the language of the United States, who are able to understand what was going on. And I felt so proud of those people who had returned from their exile to Puerto Rico and now were able to speak for those who couldn't speak for themselves. And so I make no judgments. I don't think they're traitors. I think that they are completely doing what they need to do, and I applaud them.
All right, this is another advice-seeking question in a different vein. Your path to college and graduate school was non-traditional, and yet you graduated from Tufts University. Do you have any advice for students who may be facing difficulties in their path, or whose path may not look like what they imagined?
I had no idea that this would be my path. When I graduated from high school, I was the first in my family to graduate from high school. My father went as far as third grade. My mother went about third grade or fourth. And so for my parents, graduating from high school was like, that was the top degree that they expected from us, because my mother's idea was that I should not work in garment factories. She says, get a high school diploma so you can be a secretary, or so you could work in an office, so you wouldn't have to have this kind of very difficult working conditions, plus the fact that she had a very particular skill that was very quickly was being phased out of the workforce of that town. The garment district in New York was changing very quickly. When when she entered it. So I think of college really until the summer after I graduated from high school. And I was meeting a lot of other young people. I was in a movie called Up and Down Staircase, and so they had hired a lot of people about my age to be in the classroom, to be with Sandy Dennis. 3 in the morning sometimes. And so being among these young people, a lot of them were not from my community. They were, from the Upper East Side, the Upper West Side of New York. There were people with many more resources, and they were all going to college. And they would always ask me, "Are you going to college?" And I'm like, "No." So I started looking into the possibility that maybe I should go to college because they made it sound like that's what you do after high school. And so I started with a community college because I had to work. I had a 40-hour work week. As I said, I was a secretary. I learned how to type, and I was bilingual, so I was able to work, in jobs that required that, gave me a little bit more money. And so then I started going to classes at night for strange hours that around my work schedule. But the more I worked and studied, the more I realized that people my age, with a degree, were advancing professionally a lot faster, and they weren't any smarter. We're like, what's the difference here between us and the degree? What's the difference? And so that's when I said, okay, I really need a community college. It's taken me like 8 years to get an associate, to get into working. I need to commit to the rest of my life. And if I'm going to commit, if it means that I'm going to give up so much, I have to give up my working life and many other things. Then I'm going to go to Harvard. Why go to the local college? If it's going to be that hard, it's going to be hard wherever. So I'm just going to go where my degree is going to be, a lot. And that's the only place I applied. And I said to them, if you don't let me in, I don't know what I'm going to do. Be a secretary of my life, whatever. But in my interview, I really made it clear that they were my last chance to be promoted for people who weren't any smarter. And so that was, it was kind of goal oriented and it was really brave. I mean, I'm often asked by young people, particularly young people, it's scary to make a lot of these decisions. And I said, well, it's okay to be scared. It's okay to be afraid. But you have to be courageous. And courage is something that you build. You're not born with it. You build up to it. And so that's what I did, little by little. I had a lot of chutzpah in New York. And so I just developed more. But leaving my family, it was a hard decision for me to leave my family, to leave my Puerto Rican community. But in my Puerto Rican community, I have to say that they weren't particularly encouraging, because then they thought I was better than them, and why are you doing that? Why are you being white? I heard all that. And I said, well, what I need is not here. It's not in the bosom of my family. My mom, she said, once I graduated high school, that was fine. Go get an office job, and that was fine for her. But I had bigger aspirations, bigger dreams than that. And so I realized that in order to fulfill them, I had to leave. I had to leave my community. I had to leave my family. I cried a lot. I was really scared. I felt very alone and vulnerable and sad a lot of the time. But ultimately, it was the right decision. Because what I needed was not there. So for young people, if what you need is not where you are, then you have to go somewhere else. And you have to be courageous. Not only to do that, not to be in the other, but to be in the other.
So I love this question. When I read your memoirs, I felt that I was right there with you. Descriptions were so alive, the pacing of each scene so exact and vivid. It's almost like you were directing and blocking scenes on a stage, but with words and pen and paper. Did your acting training inform or help your writing process? And if so, how?
Well, I have to say I was a really terrible actress. I went into performing arts as a drama student, and I came out as an Indian classical dancer. So because I was really terrible. But the techniques that were taught there for how to try to become a better actor. I used a lot of that in the rest of my life. Right after high school, I got that job in Up and Down Staircase, and I realized that summer, that film, not only am I a terrible actress, but I really don't like being an actress. I didn't like I'm shyer than that, right? But also, just all the fussing, the makeup, it was just too fussy for me. But I noticed that all the people behind the scenes, all, the camera people, the sound people, the director and the producers, they all were always busy, and they all seemed to be doing important things instead of powder, powder. So I said, I think I'm more like a behind-the-scenes kind of person. And so that's when I went to the community college to learn communications and filmmaking and so on. And so I'm still, to this day, husband and I have a film company, and I still work as a filmmaker. I think when I write as a screenwriter, but I use some of the techniques for being an actor, which was being in the moment, focusing, concentrating, and being open to your emotions. I could not do it when I was being trained as an actor, because I was being an actor already. I was acting the U.S. American Puerto Rican girl in performing arts, and at home I was Nelly, and that's so already I felt like I was a performer outside of our home, and so I couldn't do what the other young people around me to give themselves so openly, because I already was giving all of myself in order just to be there. But as I sit down to write, I can both be myself and use some of that training, that vulnerability, that ability to see and to remember and to value it. Because I think that's a thing I've learned from people who are writing memoir, particularly, and who are not professional writers, especially. They want to write about their lives, but they don't value their lives in the same way. They only value certain parts of it. And you have to take the ugly with the pretty, and the good with the bad, and you have to claim it, and value it, and respect it, and then you can put it out. And so I think that's what I try to do. But I think, I'm a visual person, so I have to draw a picture
With your work.
with my
With your work. You're a great artist. With your great art. What would you recommend one do to promote the arts in places that may undervalue or even overlook them?
Oh, well, this is one of the things that I spend a lot of time on, is trying to encourage young people to be artists. My mother didn't want me to go to art school. She said, "You're going to be on welfare on the red hill. Actors don't get any jobs. The girls, the casting couch, nothing but negative reinforcement. And so I knew, so I kind of resisted that, because I knew that she was wrong, basically. And for those of you young people, you can call them if they're wrong. It's okay. Your parents are not gods. They are human beings. And if they make a mistake, recognize it. Don't be afraid of letting them know if it's wrong. And I constantly was pushing and pulling with my mother about the fact that this is the right thing for me. I'm not a good actress, but I'm really becoming a really good dancer. And say, yeah, I'm doing that weird dancing with the bells and the ankles, and it's so strange, and I'm wearing saris, it was just too much. But it was me, I felt completely comfortable. And so I had to convince her that it was the right thing, and I don't think I ever convinced her. But I tried for decades. And the only thing that actually did it was my success. My success proved her wrong. And so for you who want to be an artist, if you have that artistic temperament, that drive, that need, that discipline that you need, then don't let anyone hold you back. Don't let anyone, criticize you to the point where you're ground into the dirt and into the soil. Don't allow other people to take your dreams away from you, because you know better. You may not know how to get there, but you know better. And so fighting for that is the biggest fight that you will have, especially if you're poor, especially if you're from a disenfranchised group of people, especially if you're surrounded by people who don't understand that if we didn't have artists, we'd have no humanity. All those ancient sculptures and paintings that we have, somebody made them. Those didn't just appear. Somebody suffered. And yes, you'll suffer, but it's okay. It's okay. You will also do what brings you the most joy. And even though when this morning I'm writing, and I'm glad nobody saw me. I was sobbing. Because of something that I was writing. I was glad that it's not a public performance, what I do. I'm just sitting by myself, with my computer and my notebooks, but I respect that happened, and you should too. Allow it to happen. Allow the suffering to come through, and for it to not just stay in there, eating you from the inside. Bring it out and make it into art, because we need artists, especially now when the arts are being challenged in every direction. So don't give up. Please.
Well, as we already heard, the University of Charleston has one of the most diverse campuses in West Virginia. Part of the Student Government Association's new goal is to celebrate this fact. How do you recommend we as an organization celebrate that diversity?
Well, you have to do more of what we're doing right now, and that is to bring people from diverse communities to speak about their experiences. I was really panicked about coming today because I said, it's Martin Luther King Jr. Day, observe it, but I can't speak about him the way other people can speak about him, very specifically about his history. And I can only speak about my experience as a Puerto Rican girl, seeing Dr. King every day on the walk of the apartment, and how that affected me. And that is also part of diversity, is to bring all these voices. It's not just an academic exercise. I need to be able to speak to you, human to human, person to person, for you to see me, for me to see you, for you to ask me questions, and for me to be open and honest and truthful as much as I can. And so I think we need more of that, not less. I think we can't hide passions, whatever they may be. So I think we have to allow discussion for those issues and passions and sometimes you might change a mind or two. I don't expect a change everyone's mind when I say something. But maybe Young he did. She did. She saw my books, and she saw something in her that no one had shown her about herself. So only one person is enough. It's enough. If every person can get one person to connect as a human being, then we can go somewhere. So I thought that the school, that the college has allowed this, that there's openness, that there have been many panels and discussions and open talk where we can actually learn and not only to learn from others, but to be ourselves in public.
You pointed out clearly that Puerto Ricans struggle with stereotypes. Here in West Virginia, we struggle a lot with that too. We actually wear shoes, have teeth. But how can we help others to see all who we are?
Well, art does that. I mean, poetry does that. I just finished reading a gorgeous book called On Earth We're Briefly Gorgeous by a Vietnamese writer named Ocean Vuong. I would have never picked up this book, just randomly like that, except that the title is so beautiful. The experience is not my experience. He is a young man who was born in Saigon, came to the United States with his mother and his grandma, and he had it's a novel, by the way. So it's his story, right? Of that process of learning to be in this culture, in that community that he lived in. And so I learned so much about that experience from this book that's less than 250 pages. And this is what art does. A painting can change the way you see the world. All of us who have seen just a little part from the Sistine Chapel about Adam and God, you're moved. You cannot be other than moved when you see it. Well, I've never been to the Sistine Chapel, but I recently saw two popes. So in the two popes, they're inside the Sistine Chapel. It is thousands of images like that, color and beauty and just humanity, just wall to wall. And I'm saying, wow, if that one little piece that I'm very familiar with moved me so much, what will it be like for me to be in that place to see everything? It's going to change me as a human being. It does. Art does that. Whenever I get depressed, I don't take drugs. I don't drink. I don't have a massage. I like to, but I'll look at art because we are human beings. We are wired to respond to artistic endeavor, and I listen to music. We are wired to accept and understand music. And so we need to do more of that. We need to insist on it. You are students here. Your administration is here. A lot of your faculty is here. Tell them you want more artistic endeavors here. You need to ask for it. You have to demand it because you will be a much better employee eventually. You will be a better parent. You will be a better person. Human beings are the only creatures on this earth that make art just to make art. Birds they make birds nests, but they do it to make it. We do it to bring beauty to others. And so why we don't protect it more or value more is something that I really am constantly trying to encourage people to do. We need to value it, we need to protect it, and we have to ask for it. So President Rock, there you are. Please, we need more artistic endeavors here. And you need a creative writing department. And you need to allow young people who love music, because I see everybody's walking around thingies. We need to encourage that. And this is and especially people who have nothing else, like I did. I had art. I could see it, I understood it, I recognized it, and I said, I am one. I belong with those people. And that allowed me to have a vision of myself and to do the things that I did against all expectations.
All right. Now we're right. You got all that right. It's on your to-do list. All right, we're going to change direction. Do you believe that Puerto Rico would be better off as a state, as an independent nation, or remaining a U.S. territory?
I have no idea. I don't know. I mean, I get asked that question often by Puerto Ricans, by other people. I travel all over the world. I had that question has been asked. Russia and Kazakhstan. I mean, it's just people who want to know. I do not know. I don't know what would be best. And obviously, Puerto Ricans don't either, because obviously they haven't done any of those very particular things except to maintain status quo, because the other two options are almost terrifying for different reasons. So I think if I lived on the island and I had a vote, on any of those issues, I probably would develop a very strong opinion, and almost everyone knows what it is, because my father didn't come to the United States with my mother because he was a nacionalista, as was his entire family was, who were pro-independence, against America. I mean, it was just, they were revolutionaries. And there's a big part of me that feels, for Puerto Rico to be Puerto Rico, we have to be Puerto Rico, not Puerto Rico / USA. But I don't know. I don't know what that means, what needs to be done, and I don't know whether I do know. There are no leaders. There's no leadership there that makes us feel like one option is better than the other in a clear way that we can understand and that we can then go to the polls with. Because none of them are some of them are charismatic, some of them are very pretty, some of them are very well educated, but none of them have managed to convince anyone that they really have Puerto Rico not only in their hearts, but in a vision that can actually change things. So I'm just confused about that.
All right, next question. You have written a lot about music. Do you think that the Me Too movement is changing the way both men and women behave?
I should hope so. I've written about abusive men because I had a lot of them. I've met a lot of them, and I've been in those kinds of situations, and a lot of my friends and my relatives have been in that situation. And yes, I think that again, just as an example, there was this woman that I had known decades. I'm old. So I know people for like decades. And so this lady, I had known for like at least 30 years. And I had known her at a time when she and I were like the driving mom. My kids and her kids were very athletic, and we were like the mom, like the sweaty, smelly cars all the time. Our kids coming in from sports and things. And so I recently ran into this woman at a random event, and we just got to talking in a very intimate way, even though we hadn't seen each other for a very long time. And it was because of the Me Too came up. And so she started talking about the experience that she had during the time that I knew that was horrifying. But I didn't know about it, even though she and I were like the driving mom. I mean, we saw each other every other day. And this thing happened during that time that I knew her. And I said, why didn't you say so? She said, I couldn't. I'm so ashamed. I was so scared. I was so traumatized. I couldn't talk to anyone about it. I said, but if you had, we might have been able to help you, through this, through many years of pain. Maybe your friends, people who cared about you. She says, I couldn't do it. But she did it. She did it years later, but she did it. And she did because Me Too came. And she had permission to speak about something that needed to be spoken. Of course, this person who assaulted her, nothing was going to happen at this point. But she felt better. She felt better. She knew that we cared and that we believed her. And that made a thing of the rest of her life, better. And it made my life better, knowing that I was able to give her permission to talk to me with no judgment. I believed her. I felt for her. I hugged her. I said, if there's any time that you still want to continue talking about this, I am here for you. And that is only because it's possible. So yes, I'm all for that. That kind of opening. Because we should not be carrying these burdens on our own. We're communities. And we should not be carrying these burdens on our own. There's always going to be somebody who is going to be able to help you, even if you're both kind of I can't even think in English now. But even if that's how you're walking, at least you're holding each other up together. And that's necessary.
I feel like the guy on the actor's studio, but I'm not going to ask you your favorite curse word. But this questioner wants to know your favorite color. Favorite color. Let's not be red. Let's not be nothing like red.
I'm not worried. I love green because I grew up in the country green. I don't have a favorite one. I think what I discovered last year, I had this traveling in Los Angeles, and I was there for about 2 weeks, So I brought, my entire wardrobe, and everything was black, or gray. And my friend, who's also Puerto Rican, she lives there, said, why is everything so hard? So she took me shopping. Because I needed to bring colors.
Love your shoes. Who was the most influential person in your life in regards to your career?
I think the inspiration always has been my mother. But in terms of my career, it was the editor, Lloyd Lawrence, who saw my writing. And she's the one who came up with the idea of me writing a memoir. I would have never come up with that one. So it was she who encouraged me, because she's an editor. She looked at my pages and she helped me how to find my voice in a book. And she's now 87 years old, just recently retired. Very sad. I always had the same editor from the time I began my career. And I'm kind of bereft because I've another editor who is as amazing and influential and helpful and kind and generous as she is. And this lady and I, if we put us together in a room, you would never say that we could even have anything to, she's Boston, going back to the Mayflower, lives in Beacon Hill, wears sensitive shoes, long skirts, the little page boy. It's just completely different from me. And yet, she saw something that I didn't see in myself. And that changed my life. I could not have been here unless she had seen that.
Don't you think that that's really how we become someone else sees something in us that see in ourselves?
And the thing is that it's so interesting because this has happened to me so many times in my life. The older I get, the more I recall people that have been influential in different ways. Is that we have to be open to listen to those messages and value it and respect them, and then realize that somebody is seeing us in a different way, and that helps us. I mean, my junior high school teacher, I could not teach her. You are Mr. Baron or English composition, this man sent me out to do an audition to be a drama student. This is how I talk. I guess my English was really very accent. And but he saw something. I would not have seen it. He saw it. But I was smart enough to say, well, maybe I'm going to try. And that's saying I'm going to try is necessary when those kind of people come into your life. Because they come when you least expect them. And they come with surprising words that you may not have heard in your head or from somebody who loved you. And then you have to evaluate it and say, oh yeah, well sure, I'm gonna be. Okay, sí, yes, I will be an actress in performing arts to students, And he said, okay. And here I am.
Do you have one work of which you are most proud?
That is a really deep question. I think it was the very first time that I dared write an essay about my experience in I was living in the little town of Hingham, Massachusetts, south of Boston, and feeling like I was the only Puerto Rican in this town. And I was bringing my child to the playground, and they thought I was his nanny. And so I wrote an essay about that. And I really struggled with, do I want to try to publish this? My neighbors are going to hate me. But then I said, okay, what the hell? They think I'm a nanny. Let them show them that I'm a Harvard. Every once in a while I pull up. So I published that, and I'm very proud that I had the courage to do that, because that allowed me to then continue to write about my experiences and to understand that no one else was doing it at the time. Now there's many wonderful writers that I'm thrilled are coming up and are working. But I did it, and so even though I have not read that particular essay in many years, I'm very proud that I did it and that I had the courage to put it out there.
Read last night when you wrote the cookbook, and then when your mother she said, and I loved your discussion about the sense of place that you carry inside you, because I think we as West Virginians do that as well. And I was also fascinated with your discussion at dinner. We were talking about this character she's writing about in her next novel, but I won't tell you what that is. But when writing, what is your process? Do you write because you have something to say, or do you sit down and write and find something to say along the way?
I think it's both. I mean, I know it's not a cop-out. I mean, it really is. With the book that I'm writing a novel right now. And my most recent novel, which was published in 2011, it was a long time ago, that book came because this character, I just had a vision of this character, this young girl, teenager, late teenager, in the 19th century in Seville, poring over documents, and I just had this vision of her, and I'm like, who is she, and what is she doing, and everything. So I began by asking all those questions, and just basically asking her, who are you? So that's how that book started. The book that I'm writing right now came with a character, and she just kind of appeared. I was speaking at dinner, but she said to me that she's an occupational therapist, and I have no idea what that is. I don't know what they do. I don't know. I have no idea. But that's what she says. She is. And it sounds weird, but it is sort of like voices for me. Some writers kind of just trying and struggling, and some people do the 3x5 part. My thing is I have to hear that voice, and when that person appears in my head, and maybe that is from the training of being an actor. Once I hear that voice speaking to me and telling me, my process is that I am speaking, that they're speaking through me, because they can't do it, but I can do it. And so, and this goes back to, those of you psychologists who think a lot about my craziness, but, I was my mother's translator, and I have been the translator for many, many people in my life. And so now as a writer, I feel like I'm still translating, because all these characters always speak Spanish to me, and I have to write, and I have in English. I always write English. And so I'm translating and experiencing and these invisible characters. I call them my invisible ancestors that I have invented. I really think they're part of my family, and they're speaking to me through my veins or something. I don't sound sapient here, but that's how I see it. And so I begin with that voice, and I just allow them to speak. And this woman told me she's an occupational therapist, so you might see me around in the department here, trying to figure out what that is, and what one would do.
Okay, I'm going to combine two questions. Somebody asked a question about how important liberal arts education is, and this one is, does it even matter what you major in? Because you started out in dancing and as an actor, and now you're a writer.
And they discovered that I was a better dancer, so they kind of encouraged me to continue dancing. And then I was, when of course as a dancer, as my mother said, I make no money as a dancer, so I still work. In my very fast fingers, as a typist or secretary or whatever, assistant of many different kinds of organizations and jobs. But when I was around 36 years old, my body said, Esmeralda, this is getting harder and harder. Your body is just not, it's just doing it. It took me longer to rest up from a performance and this kind of thing. And I was doing a very powerful kind of dance called Kathak dancing, Kathak from India. And so my body wasn't responding the same way. So I had a very sad time in which I had to accept within myself that I have to give up dancing to that level. I can continue to do classes, whatever, but I just can't maintain the level that I expect, the level of perfection that all dancers see. I knew that I couldn't do it at that age, and so I went through a very sad time, mourning that art that meant so much to me. And it was around that time that I started to write. And so the discipline from being a dancer, the pain, the struggle, and all the other things that come with it becomes transferred into my work as a writer. So I think it doesn't matter. And you don't have to say, I'm going to be a writer when you're, I can only be a writer if I'm 10 years old, I'm going to be a writer, Most of the people, when they're 10 years old and say they want to be a writer, usually end up being something else, I think the idea is to imbibe every art, to be a part of it, to know about visual arts, to understand sculpture, to listen to music, to learn how to dance, even if you're, even if you feel awkward, at least to know what it feels like, and then to write, and eventually you settle into the one true art that is the most expressive for you.
Now, here's a question from Jane. What did you major in as a major in?
Visual and environmental studies.
Okay.
So that was basically the
Okay. All right. Here's a good question. Have you read any West Virginia books like Mary Lee Settle or Denise Jardina about the culture, history of West Virginia?
I don't believe I say. I don't, I might have, but I didn't seek out. Just like I don't seek out, I'm just going to read Puerto Rican writers, or I'm only going to write women writers, or this is my process, and this is why it's so sad that there are fewer bookstores. So I go to the library more often now. I am the kind of reader that just goes and kind of start an A, just look for something that, and usually a title.
Do the same thing.
Then I'll read the first couple of pages, and if I feel completely engaged, I'll buy it. If the first couple of pages are not engaging, and it doesn't mean, they can be a bestseller or it can be something you never heard of, it just has to engage me. Reading is a very, very personal, very private thing to do, because it's just your eyes on the page. So it's just two of you, right? And so I want that connection from the page, and so that's what I seek. It has to grab me. I am not the kind of writer who goes to the last page to see what happened. I know people who do that. I'm like, why?
Only do that if it's a really bad
adventure. But I can't. Nobody comes to mind that is particularly from.
Okay, well, we'll give you a list before you go to the list. All right, I think this is probably going to be our last question, our last time constraint. I'm sorry I strained all the questions, but here's one last question. Having achieved what some would call the American dream, what advice would you give to those who seek to find success?
Leave home. Leave the place that doesn't have what you need. Seek that thing, whatever that is, wherever it may be. Go there, be disciplined, be focused, and work hard. And be afraid, it's okay, but develop courage. That's what I had to do. I can only give you what my experience was. That's what I had to do. It was not easy to leave my family. I have to tell you that when I closed that door, and I knew that was the end of my family time, being my mother's child. That door, when it closed, I still feel it. I still feel that moment. And it was painful. And it was hard. And it hurt my mother terribly. And it hurt my siblings. But if I hadn't done that, I would not have for the rest of my life. I just wouldn't. Because what I needed was not there. It just wasn't there. And I knew that. And it hurt me so much. That it wasn't there. But I'm writing about them. So it is there. But in order to write about them, I had to leave. I had to learn. I had to be educated. I had to find the courage and the confidence and the techniques that made it possible for me to go back to my family and give them about them, and know that this is not only they give me life, I give them this book. And they accepted it with great generosity, I must admit, with a great deal of love, and I'm very grateful. But it was hard. I don't think it was easy. It was hard, and it's okay. We look back and we go back.
And if you hadn't left, we couldn't have had you here in Charleston, West Virginia. Did I tell you you were in for a treat? I told you. Thank you.
Well, everybody, thank you so much for being here for this incredibly enjoyable evening. I appreciate your providing such provocative questions. Jane, thank you so much for hosting. And Esmeralda, thank you so much for joining us this evening and providing such terrific insights. We have a reception in the rotunda, so please join us, and Esmeralda will be there as well.